We would be working very closely with the county as well to just make sure that, because the street on the other side of the closure, if it was closed, would be the county road. And so we'll be working with them and their residents in this process. There is a letter included in your packet from Mr. Zolik Fitchenholz, who's been spearheading this effort for a number of years. He wasn't able to be here tonight, but he asked me to introduce his letter to you to express his concern that this action plan go forward so that we can hear what the community has to say about this.
Thank you. Thank you, Duncan. I'll bring it back to the council now for comments and questions. Well, I guess I've got a couple questions. First off, I've spoken to a couple people on the transportation committee today on this, and it wasn't clear to me that they actually had approved this and said, please take it to the council. Is that correct, or is that not correct, that they actually had a vote on this and they approved it and said, please take it to the council for
Yes,
this meeting? We did.
We did.
Okay, all right, so I got some bad information. This was tried a number of years ago, and I understand that there were some issues associated with that and some potential expenses that were associated with it. What were those issues at that time, and how we reconciled those?
Well, I wasn't here at the time, but my understanding is probably the primary failure of that was lack of outreach, that the town at that time just decided to do it and then just did it, and there was a lot of bad press for the town because of it. I believe there was any number of other issues that I have heard which are hearsay, so I really don't know.
I understood that there were some issues with regards to coordination with the county, and may have been just residents that are in the county, in the unincorporated portions of the county, or the county itself.
I think there was a lack of coordination with residents of the county or the county at that time, and that's why that's the primary focus of this action plan.
Okay. In your write-up, you talked about potentially a lockout or whatever, and that the police, fire department would have emergency vehicles would have a key. That doesn't sound. Maybe I misread that, but it didn't sound to me like if I was in dire straits waiting for aid, that I would hope that they could stop their car or truck and unlock a gate and then come in. Maybe I misread that. Are you thinking of something that would be more of a speed barrier that you could crash through, or what were you thought?
It would need to be coordinated with the fire district still, but in most cases, and I have experience with this, where basically both ends of the road are being turned into cul-de-sacs. It is not a primary emergency response route. The fire district would not want to go through there at speed. They would know which address they were accessing, and they would either come from Fair Oaks or from Middlefield to go to the correct address. The only time they'd be going through here is if they were going to an address on the street, because it's not one of their response routes.
Well, oftentimes there's construction on Marsh Road, or there could be an accident on Marsh Road, and traffic does get routed through that. So where is the traffic going to go when that happens on Marsh Road? And perhaps the chief can comment on other avenues that we've looked at to address these issues. So we could take those in those two areas, and then those are my questions.
I would say, if there was an event that they did need to go through there, it might slow them down. One thing is we're looking for an economical way to do the trial basis. The final basis, if it was decided to be put in place permanently, it might be something entirely different, such as constructing cul-de-sac bulbs at both ends, with a fire district, access that, the trucks don't even have to slow down for, but the cars can't go through. There are several systems in place like that.
But when there's an issue, for example, construction or cleaning of the channel, which we've spoken about a number of times in other committee meetings, Duncan, you know, they come through, we clean out that channel, we block off Marsh Road or parts of Marsh Road. Traffic has to go somewhere. There was an accident there just a short while ago. Traffic has to go somewhere. Where is it going to go off of Marsh Road?
It goes to the next street, though.
Well, I mean, the fire
Goes to the next street.
department's primary response route over in that area is Palmer and Fair Oaks Lane, because that's where their fire station is. So they would be using that as either that or Marsh Road as their two primary alternative routes. They don't use Holbrook. But as I say, that's something that still needs to be coordinated with the fire district. You know, I can't answer all of these questions yet because we haven't done the work with the fire district yet to determine what would satisfy.
And for the chief?
Thank you, council member. As I recall, the last time we did that, that was one of the concerns and continues to be the concern is it will push traffic over to the Palmer and subsequent streets when there is closure, because that's the only way they can go. So that's what will happen.
Are there any other comments from the council?
I'd like to hear public comments first and then the comments.
Okay, before public comments, although I can bring it back to the time, yeah. Let's have the public comments first.
Hi, my name is Maya Perkins, and I'm a legislative aide in the office of Supervisor Rose Jacobs Dixon. Honorable members of the Council of the Mayor. I had, as I'm looking at the action plan, and I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to see it before the meeting, but one of the things that I'm seeing is that outreach is number one, and then number two is staff recommends that the closure be for a trial period of 6 months. And so I wasn't sure whether the closure was going to happen no matter what happened in the outreach period. And so that's something that I would love some clarity on, and I realize that this may be in here, but again, I haven't had a chance to look through it clearly, but I just wanted to raise that in case it wasn't clearly spelled out. And one thing that I do see that there is outreach, and it does involve North Fair Oaks residents and the county, and that is something that that we are pleased to see, because that is very important. The North Fair Oaks Community Council has discussed this issue on several occasions, and it is definitely something that they care deeply about. So, thank you.
Are there other public comments?
David Fleck, Holbrook Lane. As a 5-year resident of Holbrook, I've been monitoring and watching and participating in these regular discussions about how to bring safety back to Holbrook Lane. Some of the comments made just now were, I think, reflecting convenience more than safety, and I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of that as part of this effort. There's definitely other options in terms of how to access the neighborhoods through the other street and various access points into those neighborhoods. Right now, I am very concerned as an individual walking on the street, whether it's with my dog or members of my family, and I do feel that it is just a matter of time before a very bad accident occurs and potentially worse, even death. I have personally had many run-ins with speeding traffic on this road. It has got to the point where we need to do something. And I think after more than 4 or 5 years of effort, it's time that we address this. And a test is the simplest way to collect data and understand the overall effects of what this kind of closure can do for this street.
Anybody else like to discuss this subject?
John Solari, 36 Holbrook Lane. Bill, I want to address some of the questions you had. Yes, we did do this in 1992. I've been around for that long, unfortunately, and it didn't turn out well. And the biggest problem with it was the lack of information dissemination to the North Fair Oaks residents. The issue that was questioned, and if anyone wants to see the